Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld live stream. We do this every night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube. Today is Sunday night, August 5th, 2018. And tonight's episode is Starbucks to accept Bitcoin as payment. Now before we get to that, let's take a look at where we are with the gold and silver. The markets are open again. Gold is pretty much unchanged at $12.14. It's up $1.20 since the close on Friday, which is essentially flat. Silver at $15.40, up 3 cents, which is also essentially flat from the close on Friday. And the US dollar is hanging in the index at 95.26. I don't have the futures numbers in front of me. Let's take a look at the cryptocurrencies. They were down all weekend. They've started to move back up, I guess, moving into the Asian Open and into Monday's trading. Bitcoin at $7,025. Bitcoin Cash back over 700 to 709. Ethereum at 408, 409. And Litecoin hanging around 74.75. Now, later in the episode, we're going to have another Smaulgld contest for an eraser, a Smaulgld game changer eraser. So I will announce that later in the evening. All right, well, let's take a look now at what's happening with this Starbucks announcement. Before we get to that, we've seen a lot of big player institutional style deals happening in the space. And we mentioned the Token Pay and Litecoin Foundation buying a bank. We also mentioned the Maltese government working with the exchange Binance to also open a bank. We've seen Galaxy Digital is also a crypto bank. They're now trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And we have Coinbase talking about getting, well, first of all, they're going to get, I don't know why this is their next coin, but they're going to put, supposedly this week, Ethereum Classic on the trading platform. And they're talking about becoming registered with the SEC. And I think Poloniex is probably going to do the same. And Goldman Sachs, through one of their venture capital investments, has a piece of that company as well. So you definitely see the large institutional money moving into this this space. Now, what is this deal all about? When this deal came out, it got misinterpreted as usual. It was a deal between working? Yes, that's working. All right, we're back. We were cut off for a while there. Don't know where we got cut off. I'm going to go back to why this Starbucks deal is a big deal with the New York Stock Exchange or its owner, Intercontinental Exchange. So when the deal first came out, people thought that this was a big deal, but for the wrong reasons. They thought this meant that Starbucks is going to accept Bitcoin, and that's always been the mantra of the Bitcoin people, that people are going to use Bitcoin. And when people use Bitcoin and there's greater adoption, then the price of Bitcoin will rise. We have to get Amazon to use Bitcoin. Everybody write to Amazon and make sure that they use Bitcoin. We need to tell Starbucks that they need to accept Bitcoin. And it was this big pitch always to get merchants to use Bitcoin, as if somehow that was going to help the price of Bitcoin. And I've always thought of that as when you spend Bitcoin, you are selling Bitcoin. I didn't see how that was going to help the price. And the more you spend it, the lower the price went down. And the reason, in some respects, the price rose is because more and more people held it and didn't spend it. So getting merchants to use it in and of itself, I don't think is a big deal unless the merchant... So you're not going to go out. If you can buy coffee or any item you want with cash, with check, with credit card, with debit card, there's no reason for you to go out and buy yourself some Bitcoin so that you can spend it. Because there's a risk in spending your Bitcoin. The price could go down 20-30%. Now why would you spend it? Well, now you probably won't spend it. You probably wait for it to go back up. You'll probably use cash or something else. And if it goes up, you probably don't want to spend it either because you're worried it's going to continue to go higher. So the idea that more people are going to use Bitcoin because Amazon accepts it doesn't make any sense, or because Starbucks accepts it. That doesn't make the average person want to run out and buy Bitcoin so they can go buy coffee or stuff on Amazon with it, because they can already buy stuff on Amazon. Unless the merchants themselves think that there's some benefit to accepting these payments. Now, the problem with accepting the payments for the merchants has been, if you don't use a payment processor, well, you're stuck holding the fluctuating Bitcoin, and that would become an accounting nightmare and possibly a disaster if you actually hold the Bitcoin, don't hedge it, don't run it through a payment processor and get the fiat equivalent. You just hold it. You could have a big portfolio of Bitcoin, and then you can become an investment company. There's all kinds of issues why companies are not going to accept Bitcoin straight up. All right, so what this deal does, though, this deal isn't a deal about Starbucks accepting Bitcoin. This is a deal about Starbucks helping to facilitate payments using Bitcoin. Now, we have been talking about the two camps of people that have been analyzing what's going to happen to Bitcoin. They're the people that love Bitcoin. We'll call them the Bitcoin fundamentalists, the maximalists. They see Bitcoin as an entirely free, decentralized system that is eventually going to shut down central banking. Everyone has their own private central bank as a deflationary currency, and people will just go about their merry way using Bitcoin, and the banks are going to suffer as a result. This is putting power of money back to the people. Then there are people that hate Bitcoin. They could be gold bugs, silver bugs, or just people who are fans of monetary policy and government intervention. These people see Bitcoin as a nuisance, a threat, worthless. For many reasons, they're going to not like Bitcoin. And their view is, because Bitcoin is worthless or a threat, they either anticipate or cheer on any type of governmental action that will shut the thing down. And in their view, that's what's going to happen. They're going to clamp down on it. They're going to arrest everybody. They're going to make it illegal. And they're going to say, that's it. Game over. Shut it down. Now, I happen to believe that both sides, and have believed for a long time. And again, just because I've believed it for a long time doesn't mean it's right. But I'm starting to see more and more evidence that my view is coming clearly into view as what is actually happening. And it's not that Bitcoin is going to take over the world and destroy central banking. And it's not that governments are just going to slam on the brakes and shut it down, arrest people, and so on. What I've thought, and I've seen evidence of this now, that they will try to corral it, co-opt it, and we've already seen that. Why? There's money to be made in this. They do not want to have the obligation to try to shut something down. It's very expensive to do that, and you don't make any money in it, and the big donors don't make any money in it. But what happens when you make it legal and you keep it legal, you then have also enforcement. So there's a lot of work for enforcement for government. So it's not like the government moves out of the enforcement business. They just narrow the scope of what they have to enforce, meaning they're only going to have to enforce what they call the money laundering, the tax evasion, the use of Bitcoin for nefarious activities. Now, let me tell you what's been happening is we've been seeing now these incidents of crypto banks like Galaxy Digital. That is a bank now that is now trading on the Toronto Stock Exchange. You have the Litecoin Foundation teaming up with TokenPay to buy a German bank. You have the Maltese government working with Binance, an exchange, to set up a crypto bank. You have Coinbase looking to become registered with the SEC as an exchange, and that has a lot of financial backing from a lot of the Silicon Valley players. You have Poloniex also probably looking to do the same, and Goldman Sachs, through one of its venture capital investments, has a piece of Poloniex. So there's large money circling this space. And when you go back to what the two sides want, or not what they want, what they expect to happen, is the Bitcoin maximalists expect people just to accept Bitcoin, and that is the currency, and people will trade in Bitcoin. Now, the reason that's far-fetched is the price is way too volatile just to have people trading it. Now, what they've done to ease that are there are payment processors who will convert the Bitcoin and then send it to the merchant, and the merchant never sees the Bitcoin, and the merchant gets paid. What's going to happen, I believe, and is happening, is not only they want to corral it, co-opt it, track it, trace it, tax it. They've already started that with the futures exchanges. There's already 3 of them. They are centralized exchanges like Coinbase, Poloniex, all of them around the world. There are debit cards now that you can put your cryptocurrency on. So what happened with this announcement wasn't Starbucks is now going to accept cryptocurrencies. This is a game changer. No. What it is, though, it is a game changer in a way, but not for the reason that Starbucks is accepting cryptocurrencies. They're not. What they're going to do, let's go through this entire intercontinental exchange, Microsoft, Starbucks venture. It's been going on for 14 months. They're ready to launch it in November. And what they're going to do is they're going to have a platform to buy, sell, store, and spend digital currencies. They're going to have a physical Bitcoin contract. Right now, the 3 futures exchanges do not have physical settlement of Bitcoin. I know it sounds odd, physical settlement, but you cash settle your trade. You don't take possession of Bitcoin. They don't send you Bitcoin, the private keys, and then it's yours. You actually just... So this is a big, big deal, that they're going to have a platform where you can buy, sell, store, and spend the currencies. And they expect to launch this in November, pending whatever the CFTC says. That's the Commodity Futures Exchange. Now, what is Starbucks' role in all this? That was the whole big key to this, was that Starbucks was going to accept cryptocurrencies. Well, they're not. What they're going to do is they're going to help, they say, let me read the quote from the press release that these guys put out. See, people project. They say, oh, Starbucks is going to accept cryptocurrency. They never said they were going to accept them. But what they're doing is a big deal, and it's actually, in some respects, it goes against what the Bitcoin maximalists want, And it goes against the, which is just people to trade cryptos and trade them amongst themselves, peer-to-peer, no middleman, no processor, no centralized exchange. Goes against that, but it also goes against the idea that they're going to shut it down. They're going to shut it down. That is not going to happen. By the way, Ripple the other day announced that Bill Clinton is going to be sponsoring something at a Ripple event. Madonna is going to be there as well. Ben Bernanke, they love this stuff, the establishment. They don't want to shut it down. Ripple is a classic example. That is a banker coin right there. But this other stuff, Bitcoin, they want to corral this stuff too. There's money to be made in this. Derivatives, there's a whole bunch of money. But let's go into what Starbucks actually said. Here's their quote from the press release. As the flagship retailer, Starbucks will play a pivotal role in developing practical, trusted, and regulated applications for consumers to convert their digital assets into US dollars for use at Starbucks. Now, what the heck is going on there? Well, first of all, you hear the word regulated applications. They don't want people just spending Bitcoin and not them and the regulators not knowing that you're spending it. You can't tax it. You can't track it. They don't want that nightmare. But they also don't want to shut it down because they know that is going to cost money and there's not money to be made in shutting it down. This idea that Starbucks will play a pivotal role in developing practical, trusted, and regulated applications, that's a shorthand for put your cryptocurrencies on a debit card, and then we'll convert them into dollars and you can spend them at Starbucks, and therefore you're like spending your Bitcoin at Starbucks. You're not, but you are. Now, why would they want to do that? Well, does anyone know what the value of Bitcoin is right now? $121 billion. The merchants want that money. How are they going to get it? Well, if they make it easy for people to spend it and regulate it and tax it properly, then people will spend it. A lot of people don't spend it because they don't want to have to track and trace themselves for their taxes, for those who are going to pay their taxes. It's just, there's money out there that needs to be grabbed, and this is the way to do it. So basically, Starbucks is developing this role. They don't even need to be involved. If Starbucks wants to accept cryptocurrencies, they could do it tomorrow. Any merchant can do it tomorrow. There's any number of payment processors, Coinbase, BitPay. All you have to do is set it up at the front desk, and you pay in Bitcoin, and the payment processor runs the transaction and sends Starbucks its $8.92 for its latte. That's it. They calculate everything. They convert it. And that, in a sense, is not accepting Bitcoin anyway. That's why the whole thing is a farce. Even when you get a merchant to, quote, accept Bitcoin, that merchant is not accepting Bitcoin. They're accepting a payment processor interposed between the payment of the Bitcoin, the translation of the fiat. So basically, the merchant is still charging you $8.92 for the latte, and that's what you pay. It's just that you start paying it by loading up or paying to the payment processor, Litecoin, Bitcoin, or whatever they're using. So all Starbucks is doing, but it's very, very symbolic that Starbucks is involved in this, because they don't need to be involved in this, that they're part of this New York Stock Exchange, Microsoft, all these big players. They're not going to shut anything down that Microsoft is involved in, that Bill Clinton is involved in. I'll never use cryptocurrencies. There's too much establishment in this already. You got Goldman Sachs investment, you have Galaxy Digital, you got Pantera Capital, you got Andreessen Horowitz. There's too much big money in this. They're trying to corral it. Now that goes against the vision of Satoshi and decentralize, and all they're trying to do is they're trying to financialize this whole crypto space. They're trying to do regulated ICOs. They're trying to just make it all. It's somewhat round hole, square peg, or square peg, round hole. They're trying to corral this and make it just the way they have the system set up. Everything is parallel. You have IPO, okay. And IPOs are brought to market by Silicon Valley people who talk to Wall Street bankers, who then use lawyers and accountants to run these things through the SEC. And there's billions of dollars in that. Okay, so we'll do ICOs the same way. All right, so Bitcoin is a payment system. All right, so we'll take Bitcoin and, well, we have these things, they're Visa and MasterCards, and we'll load the Bitcoin into those. We'll convert it into the dollars or whatever fiat currency, and then the people will use those cards and they will just buy that way. Oh, the trading? Yeah, what we'll do is we'll make sure you have a Fidelity or a Schwab account, and then we'll sell you the Bitcoin. We'll do an ETF. By the way, the thing with the ETF, I think the reason the Winklevoss twins got shut down, not just because they don't have the a U.S. regulated exchange that they can have a surveillance sharing agreement with. I think the Winklevoss twins are probably waiting for SPLD or iShares and one of the big entities. So once they have this ICE thing going, that will be a regulated exchange in November. And then you're going to have an ETF because it'll all be subject to the same regulation. Now, if you're going to use Bitcoin and you're going to say, I want to use Bitcoin now at Starbucks, and there's this great arrangement where I can load my Bitcoin into this card and I can spend it at Starbucks. Well, in a sense, it defeats the whole purpose of using Bitcoin, but it doesn't matter. People will then feel comfortable using it, and the merchants will now unlock that 120, $200 billion, whatever it is, that's locked into these cryptocurrencies. They need this to happen. And the payment processors, MasterCard, Visa, they want this to happen because there's so much money out there that they can now funnel through, take transaction fees on, do trading platforms on, derivatives on, futures on. There's no way they're shutting this down. And by the fact that you have all this big name, high profile money in it is an indication it's not going to happen. It's not going to be shut down. But by the same token, the reason they're doing it, it's the perfect solution for them. They know that there is a potential that a cryptocurrency system could run parallel and could be deemed more attractive to people if it gets off the ground as a separate ecosystem. Well, that is competition, but they see that. And since they're the bigger entity right now, they can try to swallow up all of the value that may be in the crypto system. Now, if it turns out there's no value in the crypto system, well, then they've just killed a competitor. If it turns out there is value in the crypto system, they can help it grow. They can help get that merchant adoption, but not in the way that you would want it, but in the way where you would run it through this ICE program, this Starbucks way of converting your digital assets into fiat, because that's why you have your fiat, your digital assets, is so that you can spend them, and they're going to help you spend them. And then what's Microsoft going to do? Well, they're going to have a cloud system. So now everything you do with your Bitcoin, they'll find out what you've done with it. They'll know what. Not only will they know that you converted it into a card, they'll know where you spent it on the card. So if anyone thinks that they're going to shut this down, no way. What they're going to do is they're going to try to get as much of the system, much of the value of Bitcoin, like all the things, into the payment system, into the centralized trading platforms. Now, there will be people who will refuse to go along with this. They will trade peer-to-peer. They will trade on decentralized exchanges. They won't ever load up but the thing is, the masses will. And if people are going to do things off-chain, off centralized exchanges, and they're going to do things illegal for tax evasion, money laundering, well, then the government will be involved in chasing those people down. So that's what's going on. So when I said they accept Bitcoin, they're going to accept it in the same way that they've always been accepting Bitcoin, which is they're not accepting it. They're accepting the fiat equivalent of it. But they're making a big deal here. The guy who runs the New York Stock Exchange says Bitcoin, the CEO of Intercontinental Exchange says Bitcoin could be the first worldwide currency. And they're making a very, very big deal out of this. And I think it is a very big deal, but not a big deal in the way that the two camps look at it. A big deal for the two camps would be, for the Bitcoin maximalists, would mean that people are just accepting Bitcoin worldwide, all over the place. People are transferring Bitcoin. Everything is up. The adoption rate is up 50% every couple of months. Basically, everyone is starting to use Bitcoin, accept Bitcoin. That's not happening. People are holding cryptocurrencies. So that's where that side would think something is huge. The other side, the side that hates Bitcoin, wants it shut down, what they would think would be huge was someone coming out from the CFTC or the SEC or the president or the Treasury and just slamming Bitcoin and saying, you know, if you have Bitcoin, please report to your local police department and sign these papers and turn yourself in. That's what they think is going to happen, and they would view that as big. But this is big for the way I look at things. The way I look at it is that big money will try to corral it, and this deal is just one of a series of deals, but it's probably the biggest one because they're going to have a physically delivered Bitcoin contract. They're going to have an exchange. They're going to have storage. They're going to have Starbucks working with them to use people to use the Bitcoin so that you can use it as a payment into dollars. You have Microsoft involved. This is validation of my point of view that they're neither going to shut it down or this whole crypto scene is going to take over the world and put central banks and large companies out of business. Now let's see what you guys. Oh, but before we go in, let's look up. I still have trouble with the chat, but I'm not going to worry about that right now because I have not been looking at the chat, nor have I asked the question. I know about Trace Meyer, Kevin. Here is the question. If you want to win a Smaulgld Game Changer Eraser, here's the question. First person to answer this question wins a Smaulgld Game Changer Eraser, and then we will get to some of the comments in the box there. There are currently 18 reasons to buy and hoard mugs. The first person to tell me what reason number 11 is will win a Smaulgld Game Changer Eraser. All right, let's see if we have an answer. I gotta check this top chat. Let's see if I get live chat. No, I'm not gonna get the rest of it. All right, let me go through some of the questions. First person to answer the question: what is number 11 reason to buy and hoard mugs? You win a Game Changer Eraser. All right, someone is asking what happens when they start making gold and silver in the lab. I think you actually can make gold in a lab. It requires radioactivity. They've made small amounts. It's just not profitable to do so. Kevin says gold comes from supernovas. The pressure and heat requires beyond a reach. I think I've seen, and you have to look this up, they've actually managed to make it. I mean, a really small amount. But you're right. That is why it's a big deal. Goldback supernova. There you go. Maddie, can you explain the Lightning Network? Kevin says look up Trace Meyer briefly and without getting technical. It's a layer on top of the blockchain, and you do your transaction off the blockchain and to the Lightning Network. They set up these different nodes, and then it gets recorded back on after the transaction is completed. Now, Lightning Network is at the center of the debate whether you do larger block sizes, which is the Bitcoin Cash, or you do the Lightning Network, which now the Bitcoin Cash people say Lightning Network wasn't in the Satoshi paper. That's how they argue it, why it's not good. As if there was never supposed to be innovation around Bitcoin, and so they argue for larger block sizes. All right. You can mix Mountain House in a mug. Nope. That is number... Which one is that? No, mix Mountain House in a mug doesn't even have a number. It's, wait, there is more. So that is not the answer. All right. Yes, Shark Air has won. You can stack mugs. The winner is number 11. You can stack mugs. And just to prove that he is right, I'm going to show you. You can stack mugs. I think I still have that. But that is the correct answer. So get stacking. Shark Air, if you send me an email indicating You are indeed Shark Air. It's Smaulgld. Now, yeah, Smaulgld at Gmail. I will send you. I'm sending out. I've got a bunch of them to send out from the other winners. I will send it out tomorrow, and you should get those sometime later in the week. Also, if you're interested in ordering a mug, you can do that tonight, because I'm gonna, obviously, if I'm going to the post office to ship out erasers, I do have some mugs I have to ship out as well. So if you want to be on that order train, let me know, and I will. If you order that, I'll send it. Otherwise, if you want to order the espresso mug, the Smaulgld espresso mug, or the Smaulgld travel mug, they are available at the Smaulgld store. But let me show. I have the stacked mugs, but I don't have number 11. But number 11 is indeed the answer. And just to prove to you, you can stack Smaulgld mugs. There you go. Smaulgld mugs are stackable. All right, Pad Lewis, did you ever watch? I've been called Luis and Lewis. It's actually L-O-U-A-S. I don't care, but just so you know, L-O-U-A-S. Did you ever watch What I've Been Afraid to Blog About, the ESF and Its History, Part 1 to 5? I don't know what that is, but you can either email me the link or just post the link if it's not something that's too controversial. I don't think a link can be. So, no, I haven't watched it. I haven't watched anything recently, so I can't say I haven't. I can say I haven't watched anything. So, all right. Well, unless there's any further questions, I will, or comments, I'm going to sign off. Let me give you, if you want to order your mug, and I've heard from most people. I haven't checked I have the tracking numbers. Most people have received their mugs that I've shipped out late last week. Here's the link to the store. And, oh, yes, let me link you this too. If you want to become a Smaulgld patron, I'll give you that link as well. I do appreciate those people who pay every month a nice, generous donation so that I have about 12 patrons. I think I get $50 a month, which is pretty good. Doesn't pay the bills, but it's definitely appreciated. I know the Exchange Stabilization Fund. We know what that is. But, just give you this link there. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, tomorrow, you know what I'm going to do tomorrow? I'm going to go through the gold agreements amongst the central banks. And most people don't even know what they are. But this is going to show you why central banks are not buying or selling gold, and you have these few outsiders. I got a couple of people getting mad when I point this out. They try to insist that the reason these banks are buying is they know what is coming. They are ready for the reset. They're going to back their currencies with gold. They're so steeped in the concept that they think that the world central banks think the way they do. Why else are they buying gold? Because they read Silver Doctors? I don't think that's why they're buying gold. Because they listen. It's ludicrous, but there's nothing you can do about that. And I understand that. And I also understand why the other channels get more views. Because if you're interested in gold and silver, generally, you don't attract new adherents to this. It's very hard to get new people to listen to these wild theories, because if people are paying attention, they can spot them right away. But there is a built-in audience of, it must be 10, 20, 30, 50, whatever it is, tens of thousands of people. And they're so used to hearing the same thing. People have told me that have become followers of this channel or subscribers, that they were mad when they first heard me. They were very, very, very mad, because they're like, what? That's not true. There's a game changer coming up. Game is over. The COMEX is going to default. What do you know? You must be a moron. You're not prepared for what's coming. And the gold 50,000. Remember that one? Gold, that's conservative too. And everything's going to shut down. All right. Shark Air says, I Don. I Lou. Where's Tarzan? Where's Jane? All right. If you're asking, Shark Air, how to get your eraser, I think... that's right, De La Ville. I own metals, but I don't want to be myopic. Of course not. See, if you buy gold or silver for prudent reasons, not for these get-rich-quick schemes and all this other nonsense, then you can feel confident why you have gold or silver. But when you have silver is so useful, we cannot live without silver in our lives. That's a stupid reason to buy silver, because that's the same reason to buy a mug. That's the same reason to buy copper. That's the same reason to buy anything. We cannot live our lives without silver. You cannot even have Bitcoin without silver. Or they use silver in electronics, and people use electronics, so therefore I'm buying silver. You have to know that the amount of silver used in electronics from 2010 to 2017 declined from 310 million ounces to like 233 million ounces. So just general statements to sell you something, they don't fly for me. You have to tell me why it makes sense to buy gold. And there are many. The insurance reason is one of the best reasons to buy gold or silver. The one that James Turk talks about when he says silver is not one of the few assets not simultaneously someone else's liability. Unlike real estate, you don't have to pay tax just to hold it and hoard it. You may have to pay storage fees, but it's not the same thing as paying taxes. There are many reasons to buy gold, but a lot of the ones that they give you, COMEX default, sovereign size, gold buy in 45 days, or commitment of traders never happened before, and this means this is going to happen. Gold back yuan, gold exchange on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, reset, all that stuff, that's just hype. That's not a fundamental reason. Or Russia's buying, central banks are buying gold. That's the other one. We went through that at length the other night and showed that the fact that 3 banks are buying 340 tons of gold in 2017 is absolutely meaningless to the supply-demand dynamic, even if the supply-demand dynamic actually indicated the price. Silver set to skyrocket. Pat, I could put it here, but it's not that hard to figure out. There it is. And there it is. I like to put the place like where you can send money more than my email. But that's all right. If you want the email, here, I'm going to send you, here's Bitcoin and Litecoin addresses. I like when I get Bitcoin and Litecoin. I used to get it a lot. Not a lot, and I didn't get a lot, but I used to get it often in 2015 and 16. You know why? There were people that were just trying, and I did the dumb thing. I converted it into the $22 or whatever it was. But they wanted me to like Bitcoin. You know, they go, here, take it. It's like, okay, I'll take it. And those $22 at one point were probably worth, I don't know, $300 or $400. But I converted it in Coinbase. But if you want to try again, I will definitely credit you for making me rich if you send me Bitcoin or Litecoin and it goes up. But those are the addresses. All right. Well, thank you very much indeed. And we will talk to you tomorrow night. And we're going to do the gold agreements amongst the central banks. And there are a number of agreements over the last 10 years. There's been a few of them. And we're going to go through what they mean and how they operate. Thanks a lot.